Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Yeah.
The views expressed by J. Michael McCoy are the views of the hosts and guests of Max World Live, and not necessarily the views of Webcast One Live, its staff, its management, the cleaning crew, Dave the electric guy, the guy who cleans the skywalk, the woman who brought in the cookies, the management staff of Hubble Real Estate, the parking lot attendant at Keck Parking, the wait staff over at Miss Kitty's, the coffee crew at Frederick's, the man in the street corner willing to work for food, Rob Spearman, Max Crabb, or anyone else of sound mind. Should you be offended, provoked, intimidated, shocked, confused, or just made to think independently, log on to MaxWorldLive.com right now. It's your voice we want to hear in Max World. And now, live from the palatial studios of Webcast One Live, your host, J. Michael McCoy.
Thank you, Michael Libby. 3 minutes after the hour on this fifth day of May. El Cinco de Mayo. Is that right?
Sure.
Is it El Cinco de Mayo?
Yeah, yes.
I'm saying that wrong. It's not El Cinco.
Well, but it's Cinco de Mayo.
Cinco de Mayo. There it is. Where am I getting El Cinco?
Well, it's...
El is the, so yeah. Cinco is, I don't know, fifth. So it's the El Cinco. Well, yeah, El Cinco de Mayo is fine. That just means the fifth day, right?
Yeah, I'm sure it does, Mac. I mean, I think, your listeners probably know where you're going on this, and it's, Happy Cinco de Mayo. There you go.
Yeah, it's Taco Tuesday. We are glad to be here today. We're naming this date because we're going to talk about some stuff that's pertinent information. If you're listening to this on a podcast or this happens to play after the original airing date of the 5th of May, you may have some outdated information given. Please don't call us stupid or uninformed. It's because we have the great pleasure to play some of these shows back on the radio and on the podcast, and so things may have changed. And the interesting thing, my guest, I want to introduce my guest, Pastor Michael Demastus from the Fort Des Moines Church of Christ. Mm-hmm. And the interesting thing is, in the old days, when I started getting into this business, when we said something wrong, it was gone. It's called wrong and gone. And we never worried about it because nobody could probably prove what I had just said. Why would you be recording it, right? Now, everything's on podcast. I mean, it is around forever and ever and ever. So, needless to say, Tom has gotten much better at never saying anything wrong anymore. I haven't got there yet. I have not got there yet. But same with sermons, right? Used to just preach them, and there they went, and then they were gone, and now they're taped and put on podcasts and the whole 9 yards.
Sure.
All right, well, one of the reasons we've got Pastor Michael in here today is, well, first of all, he's a great guy, wonderful church. If you are looking for a church home, I would encourage you to check out the Fort Des Moines Church of Christ. What time are the services?
Sunday school's at 9 a.m. For everybody, and then 10 a.m.'s worship for everybody.
And what's the address?
244 East Army Post Road, Southeast 3rd and Army Post on the south side of Des Moines. Our website is godsfort.org.
GODSFORT.org.
Yep.
Okay.
Good.
All right. I usually get the name of their church wrong, so I'm doing well today.
Yes, you are.
All right. So I want to talk about the presidential candidates and what's going on because we had, 2 more today or 3 more jump into the ring?
We had 2 yesterday and 1 more today, so 3 in the last
3 and 2
24 hours or so.
So who are our official candidates? It's Ted Cruz.
Yep, he was number 1.
All right.
Rand Paul.
Okay.
And we have now in the race Carly Fiorina.
Well, let's not forget Rubio. He was in there
Rubio.
early.
You're right. Yep. Sorry.
Kind of got a Senate contingent that was in early.
Yeah.
And I think it is going to break down because I've heard the senatorial casting brickbats at the governors, and I've heard the governors throwing brickbats back at the senators on who is better qualified.
Sure.
So I think you are going to see that as we move forward.
How do you say her last name? Fiorina?
Fiorina. F-I-O-R.
No. I have to spell it phonetically. Rina.
Is it or I? Is it an I on the end or an A
on the end?
Is it okay?
Fiorina. Yeah. Former CEO of HP.
Yeah.
Hewlett Packard.
All right, so Cruz, Paul, Rubio, Fiorini.
And Ben Carson.
Ben Carson is in.
And then today was Mike Huckabee.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Huckabee. All right. And unofficial is just unbelievable. I mean, there's another 15, but for sure we've got Jeb Bush. I mean, isn't that for sure?
I would say probably.
Is Chris Christie a for sure?
No, in fact, there's a lot of sentiments that say that he's probably not going to.
Okay.
But I mean, his name's still thrown out there. But there are many that don't think that he's going to get in.
And then there's Santorum.
Yes.
And who else?
Bobby Jindal.
Well, don't
Right.
forget Walker in general.
Yeah, Walker. Yeah.
Oh, Walker. Yeah, Walker.
Walker's one of the early favorites.
Walker and Bush are the ones scoring at the top of most polls that
Rubio's up there too on a lot of them.
I see. Is he?
Mm-hmm.
All right. And we'll probably come around to some of these other guys later. But one of the reasons I called you was because you have come out and said your man is Ted Cruz. Mm-hmm. And that's not going to change. I guess I'm asking a question. Will that change if one of these others so often decide to get into the race?
No.
So he's your guy until the caucuses. Mm-hmm. Or I guess through the primary if he wins the primary. If he doesn't win the primary, then you'll go with whoever the
That's not a given. No.
Okay.
So, but I would right now at this stage, I'm supporting Cruz.
All right. Is it here, get that little remote that I showed you and get ready for the boo, okay? Or no, get ready for the crickets. Okay. Because then if you can't answer this, just put that up against the microphone right here and say it. So is there anybody that if they were the nominee you wouldn't support?
Yes.
Oh, I don't get crickets. Okay, who?
I cannot support Jeb Bush.
Cannot. Mm-hmm. Why not?
Because of the issue of life, the issue of marriage, the issue of religious liberty, the issue of immigration in our country. But those three things I listed at the beginning are primary concerns. But, there's many other issues, just his political prowess, the way that he has governed, the way that he has led, the issues that he used to stand up for and speak out for, and that he doesn't anymore. It's so Romney-esque. It's scary. No, I can't support a guy like Jeb Bush.
Okay, so Pastor, if that's the case, and is he the only one on that short list of the potential contenders or announced contenders that you would feel that strongly against?
Right now, I would say probably that's the case, yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's say it is Jeb, and I understand your concerns, and let's say it is the Hillary Jeb race. Who do you go for at that point? If you absolutely can't go for Bush, I assume all the concerns that you have and then some would apply to Hillary. Where do you go?
Well, I would do what my conscience would enable me to do, and that would be I would write in a candidate. Hopefully there could be a coalescing movement of people that would do the same, but I could not, by rights in my heart or conscience, support somebody like Jeb Bush or Hillary Clinton, obviously. But that's
understanding that if it is a tight race, and it may or may not be, and I don't presume to say that I think there's a good chance that Hillary is not their candidate.
Yeah, I would agree that that's a true assessment.
But let's assume for the sake of argument that she is and that Bush is, and it's a close race. If there is a coalescing independent, Rand Paul's father, Ron, was perhaps such a figure. We won't even comment on him, but that type of a figure where maybe the independents and the libertarians and some of the other people might coalesce behind would, in essence, then most people would logically say, give it to the Democrat. Then by your opposition to a Jeb Bush and voting for a third party, then you give it to Hillary. Does that trouble you at all?
Well, let me work with the logic on that, because the idea that if I don't support the Republican nominee, I am then basically giving my support to the Democrat nominee, which means that if I don't support the Democrat nominee, by logic that works in the same way, I should be supporting the Republican nominee. So either way, it doesn't work in real life. And so the tangibles is that I don't agree with that assessment that it's like a throwaway vote. I do think that, what we have got to do is continue to reward the Republican Party for throwing up these milquetoast candidates that really are in the middle of the road. And the only thing in the middle of the road is yellow lines and dead skunks.
Well, I
and
heard
we gotta get it out of that.
you mentioned Romney, of course, and let's go back to the last race, the 2012. It's been said that too many Republican conservative voters stayed home because they didn't like his stance on certain issues, and much as you were saying about Jeb Bush, although I do think that of the two, Romney has more appealing features to him at this point than Jeb Bush did, but that we got the second term of Barack Obama, which is incredibly destructive to our nation in any number of categories. We could talk about foreign policy. We could talk about the not the creeping but the galloping socialism, on our and the antagonism for our partner of Israel, for Christianity in this country. We could go on and on and on. That would not have been present had we had and the overreach of the executive power. All the negatives that are so long-term destructive, I think, to our country would not have been exhibited had we gotten Romney in 2012. Now, if those Republicans had not stayed home and they'd voted for him, we could have changed that ship. Do you feel any... apparently you didn't vote for Romney, so you must have voted for a third party or stayed home. Do you feel any remorse over that action?
Well, first, let me say publicly in a confessional way, and something that I have lost sleep over, is I did vote for Romney because I felt like I was buying into this faulty argument of the lesser of two evils, so I got to pick the last thing. And the thing that I've kind of learned is, and this is going to sound kind of crass, but I'm just going to use this illustration. But my neighbor has a very large dog. We have a smaller dog. We both have to do the same thing in the backyard. We both have to clean up the piles that they leave. At the end of the day, one pile is a lot bigger and one's not, but you're still dealing with piles of dog feces. And, the way I see that lesser of two evils argument is it leaves you still in the same place at the end of the day. I think that the idea that I feel some onus or some responsibility, although I did vote for Romney, it was wrong. I shouldn't have. I should not have violated my conscience because some party told me, well, this is the best we've got. This is the best we can do. A guy that helped, bring same-sex marriage into his own state, a guy that helped, foster $50 abortions, in his own state. I can't go there anymore with my own conscience. And so I will vote always on principle and lay my head down on my pillow at night knowing that at the end of the day, I did what was right by my conscience and my God, and I'm not going to violate that ever again.
Well, I appreciate that, but you're saying at this point, as your assessment, and you're obviously an informed individual. What little you've said already indicates that you've taken a good assessment of the various candidates. If any of the others, other than Jeb Bush, would get the Republican nomination, you could support them.
There are a number of guys that I feel like I could. I was at the homeschool event where four of them were speaking on the stage. I had Cruz, Jindal, Santorum, and Mike Huckabee, and I just was standing in the back, kind of reveling in the thought. Look at these guys. I mean, all four of them are good men, solid men. And it's almost like the free market idea. When there's a lot of business out there, the customer wins. When we have a lot of options like this that are good, solid options, we're going to have a better chance of doing well.
Well, it's a good analogy to use the free market one. The free market system offers opportunities and alternatives, and the customer, the public, gets to choose, and that is the best. And you're saying that's the way we are right now. And I agree with you. I don't remember having this kind of a strong field ever in my lifetime.
Yeah, and a lot of people think that this is a bad thing. I don't see it as a negative. I see it as a major positive to have such good, solid choices that are being presented to us.
Well, okay, and to finish it up, I think that the U.S. Senate race we had here, very competitive. Joni Ernst came out on top, and Braley, who was supposed to be anointed, ended up getting his rear kicked in the debates because he wasn't up to it. He hadn't had the sharpening like she had had.
Right.
All right, let's take our first break. Our guest today is Pastor Michael Demastus, and he is with the Fort Des Moines.
The Hotel Fort Des Moines.
The Fort Des Moines
he's general manager there.
Church of Christ at 244 East Army Post Road. Sunday school at 9 on Sundays, 10 o'clock worship. You can find out more about it at godsfort.org. We're talking about the upcoming presidential race and the fact that Pastor Michael has endorsed, come out pretty early, endorsed one of the candidates. Which one? We'll talk about that and more live coming up next. Hey, psst. Let me let you in on a little secret. You ready? Always try to do business with people, not places. Especially if you seek honest Christian business people. And when it comes to my car, I really need to trust who's working on it. Now, my family is so blessed. A few years ago, we found a family-owned automobile repair shop that operates as a Christian business also. Open, honest, reliable, trustworthy. It's AMCO on Hickman Road in front of Kmart. And it's a family-owned Christian operating business. This family treats your car as if it was their car. Everything from oil changes to transmission repair and everything in between. So the next time you feel the need to be at peace with your choice of who you can trust with your car, give AMCO on Hickman a chance to serve you. And tell them Max sent you.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah!
If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
If you sit in the back pew or the front pew, it's your voice we want to hear. The phone lines are open, so call 244-0077. Now, here's J. Michael McCoy.
All right, 21 minutes after the hour on this gorgeous Tuesday, the 5th day of May, Cinco de Mayo. And, of course, our new lineup, if you were expecting to hear Dr. Brown from 2 to 3, it's now moi. And from 3 to 5, live every afternoon, the Steve Deace. So you'll have to start listening. You don't have to, but I hope you start listening to him again, his return to Afternoon Drive. All right, you know that voice on that piece of recording that kind of introduces us again?
Yes.
It gives the phone number.
Yes.
Every time it does, Frank calls. I'm just going to have to eliminate that voice, or maybe say everybody but Frank. Frank Thomas, how are you?
Good. How are you, Mac?
Good. Do you know Frank Thomas, the verse, Michael?
Yeah, we've met a couple times.
Oh, you're such a lucky man, Michael.
That's when I think about Frank, I think how blessed I am.
Yes, funny bunnies and
Max thinks the same way. Listen, Mac, quickly, you can't focus too much on Cinco de Mayo, because if you do, Al Sharpton will say we're focusing too much on the Hispanics and we need to get the message back on the blacks, because he's done that before, in case you didn't remember.
Okay, Frank, thanks for reminding me. Man, I forgot all about that. Woo, well, Al who? Okay, go ahead. 2 points.
One quick point and then a question for Michael. Perry and Cruz, to me, is going to suck the oxygen out of the room for both Huckabee and Santorum. I mean, they're just younger versions of Huckabee and Santorum, so I wonder why either one of them is wasting their time getting in. I mean, Huckabee's a good man, but they just got some younger versions of him. But to Michael, here's my co-host on my show, Frankly Speaking Live, David Kanyuk, feels that a vote for Bush or Clinton is the same vote. He basically felt Obama and Romney was the same vote. But keeping that in mind, do you consider the fact of the Supreme Court nominations? Because actually, if you analyze it, our laws is being made out of the Supreme Court. So do you feel, if it came down to Bush and Clinton, do you feel that Bush would give us better nominees for the Supreme Court than Clinton? Because obviously Ruth Bader Ginsburg will probably be one of the first to drop, but there could be potentially two the next go-around. So that, to me, that's the key to the whole election.
Well, I don't know that I would say that that's the key to the whole election. And when you're already dealing with somebody that you distrust, why would you then try to say, well, it's important that I trust this person just a slightly bit more than this one, but I do distrust this person on a lot of other issues. So I don't know why we would even enter into that discussion to make that part of the whole equation. Because
let me ask you it this way. Do you trust Bush more than you trust Hillary to give us a better quality Supreme Court nominee? Because there's a pretty good chance we'll get the court packed with pro-lesbian, pro-gay, marriage individuals, and I would hope that Bush wouldn't make that a litmus test. So, I don't know. I guess I would have to give the nod to him over Clinton, but, that's me.
Well, I guess at the end of the day, I trust both of them probably at the same level.
All right. Thank you very much,
Frank. I think, Frank, I appreciate your call, and I think you may make an excellent point. Mike doesn't agree, but I do. I think that even if they were even on some of the other things, and I don't agree with that, and I want to say from the outset that Bush is way down on my list of acceptable candidates. So I don't disagree with some of your assessment and how he seems to have swung to the left since he was a governor. Mm-hmm. Many of the people liked him when he was governor of Florida. Mm-hmm. He seems to have swung many of his opinions to the left, and at this point, he hasn't retracted as many as you would have expected him to do, as he would assume to run to the right to try to get the nomination. But I think Frank makes a good point, Mac. I think to consider the likelihood of a couple of Supreme Court nominees, which can stay with us an awful long time, we know, and all we have to do is look at the case that's up in front of them right now on marriage, and we see it could very easily be a one-vote decision on something as important as the definition of marriage. So I think that was a good comment, Frank. I appreciate you calling in.
But Tom, don't you think we got set up on that Supreme Court thing?
In what way?
Well, I think the decision's already been made. They're going to go pro-gay marriage.
Well, we assume
and they're just
that,
trying to position themselves.
Mac, I assume that they would toss Obamacare out too. And we got a curveball thrown at us that way. Now, I understand some of the questions that Kennedy asked would have give you the rise that perhaps he is hesitant to throw out hundreds of years of American history on thinking that the 14th Amendment applies to this. So I'm not ready to give up hope. I think the odds are that they will decide that there is this right in the Constitution to have gay marriage. But I think Frank is right, and it is a very close run on a lot of key issues right now in the Supreme Court, and to turn and put a young Ruth Buzzy Ginsburg on there would be kind of frightening.
Our guest today is Pastor Michael Demastus, and he is with the Fort Des Moines Church of Christ. Sunday worship at 10. Prior to that at 9 is Sunday school. Address is 244 East Army Post Road, and the website is godsfort.org. How do you think the Supreme Court will go?
I don't know. I think I would probably be in thinking with Tom on this, that there were some good things said by Kennedy, also by Alito, in the questioning.
Alito, I don't think is an issue. I think it's
Right.
Kennedy is that swing vote
Right.
that a lot of us are concerned with.
Exactly. I would say that. I mean, Sotomayor said some things that were just like you would expect,
Yes.
her to say. And the big issue for me on that,
She should
honestly, is
recuse
there's
herself, by the
her
way.
and Ruth Bader Ginsburg
Yes.
should recuse themselves. They both performed same-sex ceremonies.
Exactly. Good
and
point.
so I would hope that they would have the integrity to do that.
Well, you have no expectations of such,
Right.
though, I'm assuming.
Right.
Yes.
No. So, but I think that it probably will go in the line towards trying to redefine what marriage is in our country. And if that's the case, it doesn't mean that's the end of the issue. A lot of people said, well, it was settled with, Roe v. Wade in 1973. And look where we are. We're more divided on that issue as a nation now than we ever were. And
No, they've actually come in our favor. I mean, most of the questions that are asked, and I don't have to tell you this, you're an informed man, but for the audience, when you ask about 98% of the abortions that are performed in this country, the vast majority of Americans say no.
Right.
We don't feel comfortable with that.
Right.
You take out rape, incest, threat to the woman's life, and you get what you would hope. Technology has helped us move people in that way.
Right.
I've said, Mike, that I've showed you the picture of my 7 grandkids. I've met each one of those 7 grandkids before they've come out of the womb through the sonograms
Right.
and pictures, and many people. Well, it's not a blob of
Well, there was
tissue.
one time Tom just reached his hand up there and shook his hand before he was born.
for crying out loud.
So anyway, technology has helped us out there,
Right.
Even though other things are troubling, we have moved the gauge,
Right.
move that needle in our favor on abortion.
Right. Well, and I think the same thing will be true in the issue of marriage, and in the long run, especially if it is quote unquote redefined in our nation, we'll begin to see the effects of how that will erode society at large over time, and it will be devastating.
Can we look at Canada as a template for what we may be heading to?
Yes, it opens the door.
You're going to have to fill me in what that means. What's going on in Canada?
Well, the erosion of religious liberties on this particular issue, the connection that this has to the issue of pastors being able to preach the whole counsel of God's word without threat or fear of intimidation by the government or the courts is a gigantic issue. And it was already revealed in the arguments by Obama's lawyers that this might come down that road. And some of the things that they said are very scary for pastors in the pulpit.
Well, Pastor Mike, being a very outspoken pastor, might very well, if he preached the same type of sermons that I assume he's preaching from his pulpit, could be brought up in front of a Canadian tribunal and be tried for hate crimes. And even if he exonerates himself, he has to spend thousands of dollars in legal fees. And some of the pastors have found themselves in jail
Right.
for a while for doing nothing more than reading from the Old New Testament scriptures, Mac. So this is the way that we are heading, and the liberals, the ones that are engineering this, well know that this is a way that they can control.
See, when you talk about my pastor or you pastor or whoever, a pastor, a man of God, a cloth, who stands before his church and he's not allowed to preach the, what did you call it, the whole
counsel of God's word.
Okay. To me, that's my Holocaust.
Yeah.
I mean, I get really, gay marriage, the three of us don't agree on this. Tom and I disagree. You and I probably disagree. It's just not a big deal to me anymore. And maybe it's that old saying that my buddy Steve says, sooner or later they'll make you care. Mm-hmm. They'll make you care. Mm-hmm. But this is my Holocaust. Mm-hmm. When you tell me that some of the Word of God cannot be preached without condemnation, consequences, I'm going to come unglued.
Well, I mean,
because I would imagine that happens to me.
We have been running so many trial balloons in America already. You look at Houston and the Houston Five. The pastors that had their sermons subpoenaed by the lesbian mayor of Houston, Texas, and I mean those kinds of things are just, in my opinion, just kind of shooting out the trial to see how's that going to go. Well, they kind of pull it back because it had a lot of big backlash to it, but. Once the veil is torn on this issue, once marriage is redefined, it opens up a Pandora's box of issues that are terrifying for our society, for culture in general.
Now, you think it's going to settle the issue by capitulating to them on what they are making so much noise about, but it doesn't. They're never satisfied with that capitulation, Mac. That is only the next step on the rung of their ladder, and it's not going to satisfy.
The LGBT movement is run by the devil, or the accuser, or Satan, or whatever. I'm not making a joke about that.
No.
Okay.
Well, you're right.
Yeah.
He is the source behind all of that.
Rebellion.
Yes. Anything that's
Yes.
godless, anything that's antichrist.
Yes.
It's rebellion.
And, maybe I'm to blame. Maybe I'm to blame because I'm not, I didn't stand up and yell against divorce. And I didn't stand up and yell because I think that in my world, that's where we went wrong.
See, well, that's
we said okay on divorce.
This is the deal. I don't think that that's a fair criticism. I think that a lot of things that I hear when it comes about the issue of same-sex marriage or homosexuality is a lot of people say, well, why is it that the church always seems to be harping on that issue? And well, I don't know that that's necessarily the case. Come to the fort, and listen to our sermons. I'm an equal opportunity sin preaching pastor. I will preach on all sins equally and how they are an affront to God. And so, I preach just as vehemently against adultery as I do against homosexuality. And I don't condemn people that are sinners because we are all condemned by sin. There is always grace and forgiveness that's found through Jesus Christ our Lord. And so, I'm not a Fred Phelps Westboro Baptist guy, but I'm also a guy that's going to preach God's word unequivocally and tell people the truth about sin. The most unloving thing I could do is to ever tell a child, hey, you know what? You don't deserve to have a mom and a dad. That's horrible, no matter what case. I love kids enough to say every child deserves a mother and a father and a home. That's the best God-designed environment to raise a child. And any other thing is just not good enough. And sometimes it's even evil.
Yeah, it hasn't come out well in a lot of cases. I don't want to harp on the homosexual issue, but
That's fine.
When we come back, I want to share with you a revelation that I had just 2 weeks ago when I had Tyler McCubbin. You know who that is?
No.
Tyler McCubbin was the student teacher or the substitute teacher at Dowling that wanted a full-time job, and he was turned down.
Yes.
And I asked him to come on, and he sat right where you sat, and we had a wonderful talk. And about 30 minutes before that interview, God just slapped me upside the head real hard. And I want to share that with you and get your thoughts on that.
Okay.
And we're continuing down this list of presidential candidates. Who are you going for? Who's your favorite? Tom, you going to tell me who you're going for?
We got to get back.
We'll do it when we come back next on The Truth.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Homs,
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed. Fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money-back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're going to make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
If you sit in the back pew or the front pew, it's your voice we want to hear. The phone lines are open, so call 244-0077. Now, here's J. Michael McCoy.
All right, 22 minutes for the top of the hour, Salem Radio Network News, and then Steve Deace Live. That's right, we've made the switch up. If you're looking for Pastor Michael Mudloff from True Blue and Westkirk Presbyterian Church, he's now at high noon. He's got the Paul Harvey position, the most important position on the dial. High noon on the radio. After that is Dr. Michael Brown. Then we are on from 2 to 3. And then 3 to 5 is Steve Deace Live in the afternoon. I was going to share this revelation with you, but we're going to run out of time. And I want to get back to the presidential candidates.
Okay. Give us just a quick hint of what you're talking about. Give us a quick preview of what your revelation was, Mac. I'm curious.
One of my primary character defects and or sin is lust. And I realized how bad it was when I realized that I looked at my wife in a very lustful, entitlement way. Because everybody says, well, you can look at your wife in a lustful way. Well, not the way I was. Those are mine. Those are mine. You're mine. Okay, we're married. You have a responsibility. I know this is horrible. Women are listening going, oh, I hate that man. I'm not that guy anymore. But I also realized that I was the guy who while somebody was looking me in the eyes, I was probably looking down at the chest. And I didn't like that about me. So 30 minutes before the interview the other day, I'm getting off an elevator, and in 6 seconds, I can describe for you, too much information-wise, about this woman that got on the elevator. And as I walked around the corner, what I've begun to do is when I realize I've looked at first of all, now I look at him as a sister in Christ. And though the thought that they're anything other than just holy just makes me go, yuck. So that's helped a lot. That's helped a lot, rather than looking at the men as a woman, all right? But as I walk around the corner, I said, God, I repent of that. I said, I'm working on it the best I can, and you're reminding me, and Jesus is walking beside me, and he just gave me a little elbow and said, how are you looking at her? What are you looking at her like that? And there was this thought. I don't know if it was God's voice. I don't know God's voice. I heard God's voice once in my life, and that's it. But there was something in my head that said, Tyler probably repents every day for his sin too. Tyler probably suffers from the very same thing you do, a lust that he can't hold back all the time, and he suffers from the same sin that you do. So what's the difference? Because Tyler, born and raised Lutheran, youth pastor, went to Luther College, he went to Lutheran Seminary through college, and now is a substitute teacher.
But now rejects it, it's sin.
And correct, I agree. So, and I think that he said that at the end of that conversation, kind of wrapped that all up in a bow for me. Yes, I have the same level of sin, and I know you think that not all sins are equal. They are in God's eyes, but not of the consequences on this earth, right? Is that a good way of saying that?
Yeah, I guess I would say it maybe that way. I think I agree with that.
Feel free to... I don't want to put words in your mouth.
I think that all sin ultimately has the same consequence, that it separates us from God, but not all sin carries the same earthly consequences here on this planet.
So anyway, that was just a revelation.
I appreciate that, Matt.
That was just a revelation.
We can move on to the presidential thing.
So so it's Ted Cruz's position on the moral issues. Mostly.
I would say that that's something, that draws me to him, some of the issues, yeah.
The fact that what do you hope that President Ted Cruz would do to the or for the abortion issue? Well,
largely, instead of kind of capitulating the issue in that way, I agree with three tenets of Ted Cruz more than probably anybody else right now. And that is the issue of life, the issue of marriage, and the issue of religious liberties. And I believe that those three issues are tantamount right now. They're so critical. We're at a tipping point in our country, and we don't just need somebody to give a good stump speech. We need to know that somebody can actively have a plan to help preserve marriage, to help protect religious liberty, to help defend the unborn. Those are the things that are critical right now in America, in our culture. And not that that's the only thing, the only issue, but those three issues are of most concern right now in my heart. That's kind of the lens that I'm filtering things through when I look at the candidates.
Yeah, and I would agree with you, especially on the religious freedoms.
Yes.
But if he doesn't coattail in a Republican House and a Republican Senate, he's going to be a lame duck president, because he won't get anybody to make any laws about religious freedoms, abortion, and the state of marriage in this country if he can't get it through the House and the Senate. Right? Wrong?
Well, I would say you look at a guy like Ronald Reagan. How was he able to accomplish the things that he was able to accomplish back in the 80s? Mm-hmm. He was a very successful president, but he was also looked at kind of a lot like Ted Cruz is now, as this guy that I don't know. He's too much of a scrapper. He's just too far out there. He's on the edge. He's too abrasive, and people did not like Ronald Reagan, especially the media at the time. And I'm 1980. I'm 10 years old. And so all of this was kind of just young for me. I didn't really have an interest in it, but
they did try to diss him, to disdain he's an actor and so on and so forth. But I remember when he ran against Ford in '76, and I supported his run because I felt that there wasn't enough to Ford. I think most people, the common people, liked him. He had a sense of humor. He was self-deprecating. Mm-hmm. He was a great communicator, not of himself, but of principles that the country stood for. And so, and he did give us hope. Even though you're younger than I am, or Mac, you read about it. You know
yourself.
About it. Let's go to Cruz. No,
hold on. I want to ask a question.
Okay.
I have a listener that's asking a question. Brad wants to know, do either of your guests have a problem that Senator Cruz is not constitutionally eligible to run?
Oh, that's bunk.
Well, just clear it up for me.
Yeah, the Senator John McCain had this same thing as well. This is not comparable to the birth certificate with Obama or anything like that. Ted Cruz's mom was a citizen of the United States. He was born while they were in Canada at the time, but because his mother is a United States citizen, he is a citizen.
Yeah. All right.
No, I don't think that's
right. That's not even a question.
Okay. But, I wanted to ask it because it's a listener.
Mac and I met a little over a weekend ago privately with Governor Jindal. Mm-hmm. And he's not going to commit until June, till his legislature is adjourned, and he's going to.
I'm going to Israel with him in July, by the way.
And I think his basic principles are very close to what you're saying that Cruz is. I think you'd be hard pressed to make much distinction. I mean, he was very strong at the conference and privately. Brilliant man, very well educated, photographic memory, a policy wonk, on and on and on. Now, what if it comes down to coming out of the Iowa primary that, say, a Jindal fares better with the public, and we decide in Iowa that Cruz is not the guy, that he's not electable for any number of reasons. Would you have a problem with switching your alliance after that to say a Bobby Jindal, for instance?
Zero problem with Bobby Jindal. Bobby Jindal is a fantastic man. I've been down to Baton Rouge, and I've been in the governor's mansion, got to meet with him privately as well. He is a fantastic person, and definitely can communicate conservative principles. That's the one thing I didn't say about Ted Cruz, is just the ability to clearly articulate conservatism and what it means.
He's a great debater, a national great debater. I think some people are concerned that other reasons might make him not as electable.
Right.
But
there's a personification right now of him in the media that he is this rabid kind of, guy. And I don't know.
Whether you can spell that or not is another question. But my question to you fundamentally is, I have not, even though I really like Jindal and met with him and so on. I'm not ready to endorse any one candidate. What caused you at this early stage to put your flag down on Ted Cruz?
Right, and it is early, and I recognize that. And one of the reasons why I did this and why I believe strongly in doing it is because those of us that are doing this kind of a thing don't want to repeat earlier processes where we have had trouble trying to coalesce behind a candidate, and then we end up getting the worst possible choice at the end of the day. So there is this idea that if we can get a lot of people of influence, to get behind their guy, and obviously I think that Cruz is that best candidate. If you can get behind that person early on, there will be a stronger surge of coalescing behind a candidate to move them farther along in the process.
All right, we're coming back. Last break. Who's your favorite candidate? Feel free to join us. 244-0077. We're coming back now, live.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can give these grandkids back, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We can help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hey, psst. Let me let you in on a little secret. You ready? Always try to do business with people, not places. Especially if you seek honest Christian business people. And when it comes to my car, I really need to trust who's working on it. Now, my family is so blessed. A few years ago, we found a family-owned automobile repair shop that operates as a Christian business also. Open, honest, reliable, trustworthy. It's AMCO on Hickman Road in front of Kmart, and it's a family-owned Christian operating business. This family treats your car as if it was their car. Everything from oil changes to transmission repair and everything in between. So the next time you feel the need to be at peace with your choice of who you can trust with your car, give AMCO on Hickman a chance to serve you. And tell them Max sent you.
If you sit in the back pew or the front pew, it's your voice we want to hear. The phone lines are open, so call 244-0077. Now, here's J. Michael McCoy.
All right, we're back 10 minutes before the top of the hour. Satellite radio news from Salem comes up live at 3, and then Steve Deace live. I want to get right back into the conversation, but first, Brad is on the phone. Brad, you still don't think Cruz is eligible to run for president. Tell me why.
No, I know he's not. He's not a natural-born citizen. You have to be born in the United States, and just because your mother is a U.S. citizen when you were born in Canada shows that you were not born in a U.S. Yes, I can't. I'm drawing a blank now, just because this frustrates me so much. Because people want to try to use the senator from Arizona, former Senator
McCain.
He was born in a U.S. territory. I would actually argue that he was still not eligible, but both his parents were U.S. citizens on orders because his father was in the military when he was born in the Panama Canal Zone, which at the time was a U.S. territory. Senator Cruz was born in Canada. At no time has Canada been a U.S. territory, and it is not part of the United States.
And your position is that his mother was a United States citizen, and no matter where he was born, she was a United States citizen.
Correct. He's a citizen through the naturalization process, and he's
a citizen, yes, but he's not a natural-born citizen. He was not born in the United States.
Well, your problem is not with me. Your problem is with the way that the Constitution has been set up, and so it's not something that I'll be able to resolve for you. But
All right, Brad.
I don't think it's an issue.
Army Brad, I appreciate the call. Okay, Tom, go back.
All right, now let's go back to the issue of the presidential candidates. I would argue, in fact, with this small reception we had with Bobby Jindal, and I won't mention the man's name, although we've had him on the show, had buyer's remorse shortly after endorsing Speaker Gingrich, and gave a good bit of money and a lot of support to Newt Gingrich, and had buyer's remorse. The last time around, I had high hopes for the governor out of Texas, Rick Perry. Now, I think Perry did not want to get in because of his back surgery, and he was on pain meds and did not show well. There were some reasons for that. But again, I kind of had, even though I had not officially endorsed him, I'd come out and spoken well of him, and I said, I really like the looks of him, and so on and so forth. So I am not sure that we aren't better off to keep our powder dry, give them a look-see and an opportunity. To me, it seems, Mike, like you're voting before well before you should on this election, because you haven't had a chance to properly do the retail politicking, to look in these people's eyes, to meet them. You might find somebody that you like even better than Cruz, and yet you've already planted your flag on Cruz.
Right.
So
Well,
that's what it seems like to me.
Let me address real quick. I will say this. I went in November with Huckabee to Europe and got to spend a lot of time with him one-on-one. I have, in fact, just 2 weeks ago, met privately with Rick Santorum, and he's a great guy.
Sure.
I've met Bobby Jindal up close and personal, know him, and also Ted Cruz. I've met him and his wife privately, had time with them. These are men that I've actually had the opportunity. Nowhere else can you do something like this, by the way.
Right.
Iowa
I agree.
is blessed, but I have had an opportunity to have some of that up close and personal, heart-to-heart conversations even with some of these men. And so where I'm at, as I understand the risk, there is a risk, and I don't deny that. But I do think that we don't want to repeat what has happened earlier for us, and that is that we get trouble getting into who are we going to get behind? Even the family leader tried to get people together last time around. Let's see if we can get all the conservatives to coalesce behind one guy. And they didn't successfully achieve that either. In fact, it created more of a hardship, I think. And
oh, yeah, there was a tinge of scandal on that one.
Right. And I just, at the end of the day, I think that it's, every man has to make his own choice, but I have evaluated many of these candidates, and I think, like we said earlier, many of them are great candidates. But I'm getting behind Ted Cruz. I believe that he's the guy for the hour right now. I believe that he's so Reagan-esque, that he is the kind of man that can champion the causes that are important right now that America needs to have championed for them.
Now, why not Mike Huckabee?
Well, here's if you really want to know, and I asked Mike Huckabee about this in a private conversation, but why did Mike Huckabee endorse Mitch McConnell? Why did Mike Huckabee endorse Lamar Alexander when those men turned around and began to make decisions and cast votes that erode my personal liberties? And I have a real big problem with that. And his response to me was, these are long-standing relationships that he and his wife have had with the McConnell family and with Lamar Alexander and his wife. They know them personally and privately, and so that whole good old boys club kind of thing comes into play. But here was my issue, and I brought this up to him, and I said, these very men that you endorsed, that got behind, that had good candidates primarying against them, by the way, these men didn't support you in 2008. They didn't come out standing behind you when you were running, and yet you turn around and support them in 2012. And now look what they've done.
Excellent point. And the confirmation of the Attorney General just the other day is further evidence. Mitch McConnell was one of the 10 Republicans that voted for.
Right.
And by the way, Lindsey Graham, who spoke not live but on tape at the Iowa Faith and Freedom event, I hope he does come out here, because I think he's going to get an earful from people like you and me and some others on why did you do this and why did you do that on this and this and this issue. And the latest one was to vote in Obama's nominee, which doesn't look like anything other than a female version of Eric Holder to the Attorney General's office.
Exactly. And so, that's my main issue with Mike Huckabee. Otherwise, Mike Huckabee is a great champion for life and liberty, religious liberties and marriage and all those things. We line up on all of those issues, but there are some questionable questionable decisions that he's made in the past, some alliances that he's had that looked political, that looked good old boys club kind of thing, that I feel like there's a stronger candidate. Mike's had a run at this.
Yeah.
Mike had a go at it.
Yeah.
Good answer, I think, to a good question.
Well, and here's the difference you've made in my life today. I'm going to go back home and watch some video on Cruz. Because what I've seen of him, I don't know. I'll go back and look at him again. Thank you for sharing that. I'll go back and look at him again because I don't have a candidate. Mm-hmm. I would have told you my default candidate was a Huckabee Rubio ticket. Mm-hmm. That would be my default ticket. But we'll see what happens. And Michael,
my dream team would be a Cruz Jindal ticket.
Okay,
that would be my dream team.
All right. Well, maybe you'll get that chance. And Pastor Michael has agreed to come back on again in a couple of weeks. Pastor Michael Demastus from Fort Des Moines Church of Christ at 244 East Army Post Road. Sunday school at 9, worship at 10, godsfort.org. And Tom, of course, thank you for being here. Next week we've got former Chief of Staff Doug Gross.
Exactly.
And will he step up and run for governor?
No, I've talked to him again, and
Well,
we can ask him, but I think that the answer is no.
I'm going to lock the door and won't let him out.
Well, I think he'll answer you the same way he did me. No.
Put him under the water till he repents. You've done that before, I'm sure, a few times. All right, until I see you again, remember that I asked you to do one thing for me, is to go home and think of that person that you simply can't forgive. There's no way. That ex-mother-in-law, that ex-spouse, that whoever it is, that neighbor. And tonight on your knees, ask for forgiveness. Because how you forgive, you will be forgiven. I'll see you in church.